Hello everyone, and welcome to this audio podcast. This audio podcast is part of the Squorm N Paxhydermatous. This audio podcast is part of the Besieged Squad, and this audio podcast is part of a Storm the Bosties production. So looking back at some at in around the RCAD or RCAD seminar that took place. Um, I had the opportunity to attend the RCAD or RCAD seminar, and the RCAD or RCAD had speakers, presenters representing from across different faculties at one of the main academic institutions in the Midlands, UK, and one of the first presentations or overviews was an overview and relating to unpredictable by nature emerging invasive species. The speaker talked about speaker talked about in around species when introduced into ecosystems. And the overview was about some about in around particular in around mainly in around plant species, and um, where they don't where plant species don't normally create too many issues for native species, and others, whilst others cause an impact, sometimes causing challenges. The speaker talked about how different plant species can challenge the ecosystem because natural systems are complex or can be complex and dynamic. The second speaker and presenter surrounded or was in around where there was an investigation of everyday economic practices in conflict, in context of conflict, in context of conflict zones, and their potential for peace. The presenter the presenter speaker highlighted differences of economy between a war and conflicted parts of society versus Western socioeconomic societies, and economy recovery following war. This was an intriguing presentational overview, since it seemed to follow some of the works by another investigator or author, from another investigator or author, referred to as Vogel, in works from Vogel 2022. The economic local turn in peace and conflict studies, and economic peace building interventions, and the everyday economy, and the everyday new political economy. The third speaker presentation presenter surround a presenter informed of works on reimagining Palestine, the contrasting realities between the nostalgia of the outside versus the realities of the inside. So the presenter highlighted some intriguing perspective, especially surrounding dictomy in the Middle East, and how there is the perceived aspect of what a society believes would be correct for the people in Palestine, and then there is the Palestine's reality. So the contemplation or reflection around hearing from the presenter was in following had been in and around in around if and where people look to prompt peace and unity on behalf of those suffering in Gaza and Palestine, for example, and if and whether they are automatically referred to, and if and whether people who or populations, for example, who prompt peace, prompt peace and unity on behalf of those of those suffering, for example, that they are that and if they are automatically referred to as activists or fundamentalists. Then the fourth speaker or presenter in as part of the RCAD or RCAD seminar was in around can artificial intelligence be deployed in combating trade-based money laundering or what had been acronymed as TBML in in Nigeria, in particularly in Nigeria, and critical analysis of legal and ethical standards and future prospects. The speaker or presenter informed of research and works that looks to investigate how so-called AI technology could be utilized or could be utilized to intercept sort of fake or scam businesses. And the speaker focused on scam business or businesses and TBML that historically have been taking place in the country Nigeria. And another speaker or presenter had informed of incels to incels to femcells and social death or social death and undesired singlehood and digital community. The speakers, there were two speakers are presented who talked about how through particular social media modalities sorry, how through particular social media modalities that 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 memes or memes are used and particularly by those from female backgrounds to communicate, and how these can how these can present an aesthetic or vibe. This then has a focus on female centric online communities to give what is referred as what had been referred to as a sort of sad girl culture, and the presentation focused on differences between incels and femcells, and in amongst the differences between terminologies. And then finally, there was at the RCAD seminar, there was a speaker presenter that talked in around and informed of bodies of punishment, making physical theatre in England and Wales prisons. The speaker highlighted some detailed background research or investigation of how arts can be productive in imprisoned populations. The speaker talked about how how theatre-based performance can be important. It can be an important tool for prompting trust, self-expression, and self-awareness in prison systems. The speaker focused on some of the methodical aspects, and how and how data can be collated, and how data that is collated or collected can be helpful to bring in an awareness of arts in amongst arts in such populations. So overall, the RCAD seminar, or RCAD seminar, was informative, and there had also been some intriguing research poster presentations that had also been done, that have also been presented during the seminar. So that draws this audio podcast to a close. This audio podcast, as part of the Squorm N Paxhydermatous, this audio podcast as part of the Besieged Squad, this audio podcast as part of a Storm Robotics production.